Welcome to this video on how to create a beautiful color wheel using Schmincke Horadam watercolors. Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Ingrid from I Am Art Studio. I'm really happy that you're here today. In this video, you're gonna learn how to paint a color wheel with only 3 colors. These are yellow, red, and blue. These are the primary colors, and today we're gonna be doing that with Schmincke, which is one of my favorite brands of watercolors, and in this case we're gonna be using the professional range. So if you are one of those people around thinking, I would like to go from a student range to a professional range, and you don't know if you want to spend a lot of money buying a full set of colors, then this video is for you. I'm gonna show you how to create the whole color wheel with only 3 colors. So you can do an investment, get 3 colors and get all these colors with you and see if you actually like this range of watercolor or not. For this class, we're gonna be using 3 primary colors of the brand that you choose: a ruler, a pencil, an eraser, and a compass. As we're gonna be painting with watercolors and they use water as a medium, we need a watercolor paper. So in this case, I'm using a 300-gram paper, which is cold press, and it has that texture to it that you can see, which will allow you to take more water into the paper. The first step is to create the color wheel that we're gonna be painting on. For that, first you need to locate the center of the page in your watercolor paper and use the compass to do a circle. Then you're gonna start dividing the circle in 4 and then in 12 equal parts. We will also add a couple of circles within the bigger circle. You will see why in a second. There are many types of watercolor formats, but for this video, I'm gonna be using watercolors in tubes. When painting with watercolors, whatever you paint on top of pencil, it will stay there. So we want to erase all the hard lines before we start working with watercolors. Before we start painting with watercolors, it's a good idea to label which ones are gonna be your primary colors and your secondary colors. So make sure that between each primary color, you're leaving 3 slices of the pie, and allocate the secondary color right in between each primary color. To create our color wheel, we're gonna start by painting the primary colors in it, and we're gonna be doing a bigger concentration of the pigments towards the center of the color wheel, while we're gonna leave a more watery pigment mixture towards the outside of the circle. To create each one of the secondary colors, we're going to be mixing equal parts of each one of the primary colors to get the one in the middle. So for example, here we're going to be doing orange by mixing equal parts of red and yellow. We're going to be repeating this step as well to do the mixture between blue and yellow to create green, and between blue and red to create violet. Because in watercolors we're not mixing the pigments with white, the tints come from the transparency and how much pigment you have on top of the white paper. So this is why we're leaving a more concentrated pigment towards the center of the circle, and we're adding more water as we progress to the outwards of the circle. Now that we're finished with the secondary colors, we're gonna jump in straight into the tertiary colors. The tertiary colors are a mix of one of the primary colors and one of the secondary colors that it's adjacent to either side of the primary color. And for this, you also use a mix that is half primary color and half secondary color. Because I'm pretty much eyeballing the quantity of color that I'm using to reuse the colors and the pigments that I've already have in my palette, you see that I'm also using a piece of paper where I try and test the colors before I start painting them into the color wheel. This also allows flexibility within the practice, so if I think that a color needs more red or needs more violet in this case, then I'm able to adjust it myself. Doing a bit of a recap of what we've done so far. First we have the red, yellow and blue, which are the primary colors. Then we have orange, green and violet, the secondary colors. And then the mix that we're working on at the moment are the tertiary colors. The next color we're going to be creating is the one between the green and yellow. For this, we're going to be mixing equal parts of the yellow and green. But if we don't have enough of one, then we're able to add a little bit of the primary colors to one side or the other side of the spectrum as needed. So for example, in this case, I need a little bit more of the yellow, and that's what I'm adding directly into the color palette to mix it. As you can see, I'm gonna be a little bit careful on how much color I'm grabbing from it, because I don't want to go all the way to the yellow part of the color. So I'm just grabbing a little bit of it, mixing it, and then I'm gonna be testing it on my spare paper to see if this is actually the color that I think that it goes right in between the yellow and the green. So here we're testing the color, and what I usually do is that I put it close to where it's gonna be going, and if I think that we're ready to go, then I start painting in the color wheel. And I think that we got a really lovely yellow-green color at this moment, so we're gonna go with this one. Because I have a highly concentrated pigment mix at the moment, I'm gonna start from the inside of the color wheel to the outside. And you might also want to check if your paint has dried before you position your hand on top of what you've previously painted. Painting the color wheel is also a really good exercise to practice your accuracy with your brush. As you can see now, you're always trying not to cross over to the adjacent colors in the color wheel. And now that I'm finished painting the first part of the yellow-green color, we're gonna add a couple of drops of water, clean water, and mix the pigment so the concentration of it is lesser than the one that we had previously. And then we go and paint the second bit of the yellow-green color in the color wheel that is going to be more transparent than the first one. And now once again, once you finish with the second part of the color, you can go to the third and more diluted one, and we're adding again a couple of more drops of water, making sure that the pigment is gonna be more diluted in the solution, and which will give us more transparency in this type of tint. Now that we're finished with the yellow-green, we're gonna start painting the one that goes between blue and green, and that's gonna give us a blue-green color. Because in the color palette I already have the yellow-green and I don't want to waste that pigment, I'm just gonna start adding more blue to the mix, so we're moving towards that side of the color wheel. And that's the beauty of it. You don't necessarily need to calculate exactly and precisely how much pigment do you need and make it in equal parts. You can start always testing on a piece of paper and see if the color that you're creating needs more blue in this case, and which is the case. So I'm adding more blue to the mix to make sure that it goes right in between the blue and the green color. And once you're happy with your color, then you can start painting again in the color wheel. So we're happy with this one and we're gonna go for it. And at this stage of the process, we're just following exactly the same steps. The more concentrated color will go towards the inner part of the color wheel, and the most diluted one is gonna be going on the outside of the color wheel. And we're finally getting to our last color, which is the blue violet, which is a mix of equal parts of violet and blue. So in this case, what I'm doing is that I'm reusing again the colors that I have already available in the palette. And because I have already the red violet there ready, I'm gonna start adding more blue because that's where we're moving towards in the color wheel. So by adding more blue into the red violet, it's gonna create eventually the blue violet color that I need. And for this, again, you start testing it on your piece of scrap paper on the side, making sure that the color that you're getting goes really well in between the violet and the blue, as I am doing now in the video. Once you're happy with your color, then you start painting on your color wheel. And as I'm painting the last color of the color wheel, I'm just gonna leave you with the whole process, and I'm gonna stay quiet for a couple of minutes so you can observe what I'm doing, how am I painting, when am I adding water, and all of that we've already discussed in the past. And here we have it, the color wheel with the primary, secondary and tertiary colors. If you have enjoyed this video and you have learned something new, I encourage you to please like my channel, subscribe to it and share it with your family or friend members.
Your family or friend members? No.
And share it with your friends or family members that might be interested to learn watercolors. And stay tuned for the next one. See you next time.